Good. Now slowly, please. Good. One more time. Good. All right, let's discuss what's going on. James is the attacker. His hands are on Nikki's throat. By the time she realizes she's being attacked at all, this is the danger. She has to address this immediate danger of her windpipe being crushed by his thumbs. Instinctively, her hands are going to fly up to where they feel pain. So her hands are going to want to do something similar to our technique. They'll fly up where they feel the pain. Instead of grabbing, though, Nikki, make a technique as though you're grabbing an improper technique. Instead of grabbing, which is a little bit closer to instinct, we're going to modify that, and her hands are going to become like hooks. Hold your hands up and out a little bit. Her thumb's part of the hook. Her hands are bent, and she's going to reach in deep, not just with her fingertips, all the way up to her wrists and close to his thumbs. Immediately, she's plucking out along her shoulders and then down a little bit, trapping his hands. Do that, just that motion slowly, just slow motion, the pluck. Her hands are like hooks. The thumb is part of the, good. Do it a few more times. Good, one more time. If you'll notice, relax, hands on the throat. When Nikki goes to pluck, she's going to get close to his thumbs. She wants this because the closer she gets to his thumbs, the more leverage that she has. Now, the nice thing about the instinct part of her reaction is that she doesn't have to see where his thumbs are. She goes where she feels pain. That's where his thumbs will be. So she reaches in deep and close to his thumbs and plucks out for maximum leverage. The farther, thank you, the farther up James's arm she went, the worse her technique would be. But she's not doing that. She stays close to the thumbs for most leverage. Now, this makes the defense one more time, just the defense. Good. This is a good defense. She wants to hold on to his hands. Notice at the end of her pluck, Nikki is trapping James's hands so he can't get free. Now, he might struggle to get free, but at least for the moment, his hands are trapped and he can't use them. Make the defense and the counterattack. Now we're adding the counterattack. She defends and counters simultaneously. She starts out in a passive or neutral stance. As the attack comes on, she plucks and kicks to the groin at the same time. Her hands are occupied. Her legs are free. She gives a groin kick. From here, she follows up. The knees, maybe more groin kicks, punches, whatever feels like it makes sense to her. Go back. Watch how close together the pluck and the kick are. Go to just that a few more times. Nice. One last comment. Notice how Nikki is not trying to kick James with any certain part of her leg. She swings her whole leg at his groin. If she gets him with her toe, maybe he's a longer person with longer arms, okay. If she gets him with her shin, fine. Her knee, whatever she gets, she gets. But she doesn't have time in the moment to try and gauge her distance. So her whole leg goes. Good, now finish up. Good. The last thing to say is to go back and talk about that plucking action one more time. Notice how Nikki is not pausing at all. It is one fluid motion from beginning to end. Good, one more time. Nice. Good, hold on. So now we work on a situation where the attack is the same. It's a choke from the front, but now the defender is being pushed back. The defender has to react to both the threat to the throat and being off balance. The attack and the defense look like this. Again. Good. Slowly, please. So let's break this down. The attack comes on, and Nikki, don't defend yet. Slow attack and freeze. By the time Nikki realizes she's being attacked at all, she's in this position or something like it. She's off balance. Before she realizes what the nature of the attack is, she's already off balance. So even though she's feeling pressure at her throat, she might feel the need to put her hands up. She's also dealing with being knocked backwards. Her hands are going to fly a little bit. We turn that reaction into our technique. So as she's falling back, Nikki's going to take a small step with one foot and stab the other foot to the other hand to the sky. Good. Stab to the sky. Her bicep is right near her ear. From this position, a sharp rotation to break the plane of the attacker's wrist. From here, she drops her elbow down to trap his hands. Then it's an elbow to the face, followed by additional counterattacks, taking control and finishing. Again, make the attack and freeze. Good. From here, Nikki takes a small step back, not a big step. A big step is unrealistic. Make a big step. A big step, if you could do it, it might help, but in reality, when you're surprised, you won't pull this off, or you're unlikely to. So we'll come back. We train to take a small step, which is more realistic, and stab our hand to the sky. What you want to think of is bicep near your ear. The bicep goes near the ear, and from here, Nikki makes a very sharp turn right across the plane of James's wrist. Come back. If she were to have her arm farther away from her ear, and she made that same turn, it would be farther up James's arm, and she might succeed, or come back. James, bend your elbows even a little bit. If James makes his arms a little bit stronger, Nikki tries to defend from here, and she's not going to have the same success. But, go back, bicep to the ear. That guarantees she's going to make leverage right at the attacker's wrist. She makes that same sharp turn, and she breaks the hold. It's not relevant to the choke that his hands are near her throat. There's no pressure anymore. Now she wants to get the hands away from her so they're not bothering her. She drops an elbow down. Other hand comes up to catch. From here, elbow back to the face. Good. Finish. Good. One more time slowly. Good. Now slowly. Good. One more time. Good. So in this attack, choke from the side, we're following principles that are already familiar to us. Hands are on the throat. Nikki has to address the immediate danger. She uses something based on instinct. Her hands want to fly to her throat where they feel pain. Her hands are going to move. But now we use the outside hand only. The inside hand won't do us much good. Her outside hand is like a hook. Thumb is part of the hook. She makes a pluck explosively. Good. Again. Good. If you watch, just like the other technique, she's reaching farther than she needs to, then she's ripping down. This time, the motion of her arm is about 45 degrees across her body in a quick motion to pluck near the thumb. Good. Last time. The only thing technically to be aware of is that you don't want to make the pluck and roll your hand away from your body. Make that mistake, roll your hand away from your body. The truth is, you actually get some leverage on the attacker's thumb, but your motion of your body is not as strong. So we make a strong motion of our body. She drags it along her chest. Good. That's the pluck. Now, as with everything in Krav Maga, simultaneous counterattack. So while she's plucking with the outside hand, inside hand makes a groin strike. Palm faces the target, ripping up and under. Go. Good. Again. Good. From here, immediately after that initial counterattack, ripping upwards with an elbow. There are a couple of options for elbows, but the one we prefer, the one that seems most natural to us, is the groin strike, whoom, and an elbow straight up the side. Go. Good. Again, one more time. Good. From here, stay right there. From here, Nikki's going to continue with counterattacks, probably hammer fist to the side of the head, catching and finishing with knees. Good. Again, one more time, the whole thing slowly. Good. One quick comment. James, make the attack. Nikki, make the initial defense and counterattack, and then freeze. Go ahead, make the elbow. Now from here, there are several ways you can grab, but what we like to show is catching, make the catch the way you just were. Yeah, right there, freeze. Getting to the near shoulder. This prevents James from trying headbutts if he's thinking about headbutts. Go back, please. Make the initial defense and counterattack, and then freeze. If Nikki were to reach across to the other shoulder this way, there's some danger as she's transitioning, go back right into the middle, as she's reaching across, that James headbutts her or drops in for a bear hug. He has some openings. Hopefully he's hurt too much to take advantage of them, but he has some opportunities. We try and deny him those, so Nikki makes the defense and counterattack, gets to the inside, yeah, and then she finishes from there. Good. Choke from the side. Good, now slow. Good. All right, again. Now, this is choke from behind. Although the technique looks a bit different than choke from the front, it follows the same principles. So the hands are on the throat. James has to address the immediate danger, and his hands want to fly up where they feel pain. So he makes hooks out of his hands. He reaches back as far as he can to make sure he gets the hands, and he plucks down explosively. Good. There's no pause. Again, it's one fluid motion, straight down. Now it's 2 elbows to his stomach. One more time, please. Good. Notice a couple details. Not yet. As James is making the technique, he's tucking his chin, which is fairly instinctive, and he's rounding his back. This gives him balance and exposes the thumbs so he can make the technique. Make just the pluck again, please. Good. Now, this isn't enough for us. We have to start changing our position. So as James is making the defense, he's also stepping diagonally back into the side to A, get out from in front of the attacker, and B, line the attacker up for his counterattack. One more time, the pluck and the step, please. Good. Now, do me a favor, James. Go to the other side. Pluck and step the other direction. Good. Now, from here, go back. Simultaneously, as James is making the pluck, his inside hand is traveling down. He lets it continue to go, and he's making a groin strike as he's making the pluck. Go. Good. Again. Slow motion. Good. The groin strike is usually made palm facing the target, hitting up and under. One more time. Good. From here, James continues with counterattacks. The next most logical may be an elbow, probably to the face, possibly to the midsection, but we prefer going up to the face if we can. Boom. Turning in and finishing. Good. Watch a couple details. Make the initial defense and counterattack, and then freeze. From there, watch when James turns. If he can control the situation, he wants to turn inside to the inside shoulder, counterattacking as he turns, but getting to the inside shoulder. James, come back, please. It's possible, but not preferred. Make the initial defense and counterattack. for James to turn to the outside and go to the other shoulder. Freeze. The problem with this is that James tends to go across several of the attacker, Brian's, weapons. So what he wants to do is defend and counter, turn to the inside where he's safer and get more immediate control, and then finish. Good. Last comment to make. Make the attack again, please. Slow motion. James's feet. Diagonal step, counterattacks, and watch his inside foot. It steps out a little bit to avoid Brian's feet and legs. Good, one more time. Good, one more time live. Good. Choke from behind. So now we're going to take this idea of choke from behind and add a push to it. So the attack is the same. The initial threat is the same. But just like before, when we had choke from the front, we added a push. Now we add a push from behind. So now Brian attacks James, chokes him, but also shoves him forward. Make the attack live, aggressive defense. Go. Again. Good. Let's keep going. James, when you make the defense, keep your arm closer to your ear longer. Don't worry about giving him an elbow. Keep your arm straight and closer to your ear a little bit longer. Go. Do it. See? Not this. Turn in your place. Keep that bicep wedded to your ear. Turn, and then you can move your arm. Better? Good. Good. Again. Do a couple more. I'm going to tire you out. Good. Again, one more time. Good. Now slowly. Good. One more time slowly. Good. All right. So the attack comes on. Just make the attack, push him forward a little bit, and then freeze. Good. Again, by the time James realizes he's being attacked at all, he's in this off-balance position. He has to be able to react and function from here. He's falling forward. His hands might fly out to stop his fall. He makes a small step with one foot, and the opposite hand stabs straight ahead, bicep to the ear. From here, he makes a sharp turn in his place to affect the wrist. Perfect. Now from here, he has to do two things. He has to finish regaining his balance. He steps back. At the same time, he's throwing a counterattack. Good. Catching, finishing with knees. Kicks, whatever seems appropriate. Come back. Again, go to the defense and stop. Freeze right here. Good. This is our initial motion. From here, you want to make sure that when James makes the defense, he affects the wrist. If James were to try and roll backwards toward Brian, he would get stopped. Bicep to the ear, sharp turn in his place. That's what defends the choke. From here, James is going to step back with the inside foot and counterattack. Good. One more time slowly. Good. Choke from behind with a push. Headlock from behind. Specifically, a bar arm. The headlock comes on from behind. If I had time, I would tuck my chin early. Even before the headlock came on, if I realized he was here, relax your hands. If I realized the attack was coming, I would tuck my chin. I'm going to assume right now that I don't have that time. I'm totally surprised, and this happens to me. From here, my hands are going to want to go where they feel pain. I make my hands like hooks. I pluck explosively. I reach as far back as I can, not right to here, farther, so I get momentum, and I pluck. I reach for both his hands because this is where there's an opening. There's no help for me here. This is where he's the weakest. Both hands go like hooks as far back as I can, and I pluck down explosively. As I'm plucking, if I have not already turned my chin, I pluck and turn my chin. Adding to that, my hands go and pluck, my chin turns, my shoulder drives into him. My hips are going to drive out a little bit. I focus a lot on my shoulder, turning in. I am interested in making this space right here, that space. I want to take the headlock, hold stronger, from here to there. At the same time, chin turns, shoulder drives. Now there's enough space. I slide my head out. Stepping out to get some balance. Knees to the midsection, knees to the groin, kicks to the groin. If it's available to me, knee to the head, knee to the face. Finishing with whatever techniques seem appropriate. The danger in this attack is my throat being crushed. It's not quite a carotid, it's not quite a blood choke, it's my windpipe. I have to address the danger immediately. Here, and then I'm sliding out. One common problem about this angle, when I make the defense, as I said, this shoulder, the inside shoulder, drives in toward the attacker. What I'm not doing is taking the outside shoulder away. Watch, if Andrew chokes even a little bit stronger, and I try and take the outside shoulder away, I take myself into the choke, I hang myself. Instead, I pluck, and the inside shoulder goes into him to help create space. From here, I'm sliding my head out, stepping, and finishing. Good, headlock from behind, bar arm. Okay, so let's break down this technique for a minute. What is happening when the headlock comes on, most often I'll be pulled back a little bit, so I like to do all my training being a little bit off balance. If you're on balance, great, but let's train as though you've been pulled back aggressively. The headlock is coming behind me. My hands are like hooks. My thumbs are part of the hook. I reach back as far back as I can, not right to where the hands are, farther to build momentum and to ensure that I catch his hands. Both hands fly back and pluck down explosively. This is the action of the hands, this motion. I reach as far back and I rip down, plucking, not grabbing. As my hands make the pluck, my chin is turning, if it hasn't already turned. So my hands go back and I'm turning my chin. And if you watch, the motion of sending my hands back and turning my chin already encourages my shoulder to turn in. I want that. Now I make that happen explosively. Hands go, chin turns, and my shoulder drives into him. My legs are working. I'm pivoting on my outside foot. My hips are going to turn in, and they're going to bend a little bit to make this action. My whole goal is to create a little bit of space between his headlock and my throat. Once I have that space, as long as my chin has turned, I'll be able to slide out. If I keep my chin out, it may get caught. This is what I want. Hands like hooks. Sharp turn. Once I slide my head out, I'm catching, and I'm finishing with combatives. Headlock from behind, now a carotid choke. The attack is very similar. The defense is very similar with some changes. The attack comes on, and now instead of this bar arm we discussed earlier, where the pressure's on my throat, the attacker grabs deeper. My throat is in the crook of his elbow. The pressure comes from the sides now. For me, the main change is the weak part of his attack is farther away from me. My hands have to reach farther. When I reach as far as I can, I still reach for his hands and I pluck and make almost the exact same defense. All the basics are the same as the bar arm. Two differences. On the bar arm, because the weak part, the joint I'm looking for, is so close to me, my hands tend to reach at about the same time. No problem here. By the way, on this defense, if they reached 1, 2, it might be okay. But because the weak part of this hold is so close, they tend to go at the same time. When I'm defending against the carotid version of this attack, I'm going to let the close hand go a little bit sooner. I'm not delaying this hand. This hand goes as fast as it can, but this hand will arrive sooner because it's closer. So the rhythm you create with your pluck tends to be a little bit more of 1, 1.5. The reason for this is that if I send both hands simultaneously, both hands will tend to reach only as far as the short hand can go. And that, make the choke deeper, that may limit my reach. So I'm always sending the near hand freer. As soon as it can go, as fast and as far as it can go, then the other hand follow up to make a defense. Now, this hand should get there as soon as possible. It's not 1, stop, 2. It's as soon as possible, but you will hear a small rhythm of one hand reaching and the other hand following up this way. The other variation in my defense is this. In a bar arm attack, the pressure's here, the hold is closer. I tend to pluck straight down along my chest. In this carotid version of the attack, I tend to pluck more along my shoulder. You can think of this as a difference if you'd like to. It is a difference in my body position, one down the chest, the other down my shoulder. But the truth is, as far as physics go, it's the same. Because what I'm doing against the bar arm is plucking 90 degrees to the hold. What I'm doing against the carotid is exactly the same, plucking 90 degrees to the hold. So even though it's a different part of my body, in principle, it's the exact same technique. Everything else after that is the same. Sliding my head out, finishing with counterattacks, neutralizing the threat. The breakdown for this defense against a carotid headlock from behind is very similar to the bar arm. My hands go back like hooks. The thumb is always part of the hook. I reach as far back as I can and I pluck down. The only difference is I have to be sure to reach as far back as I can because the weak part of his hold is much farther behind me, possibly well over my shoulder. So I reach as far back as I can, and the rhythm becomes more like 1, 1.5. One hand goes, the other hand follows up. At the same time that I'm making that pluck, I'm fighting to turn my chin. Keep in mind that he's got a forearm on one side of your neck and a bicep on the other. So the turning of your chin might not happen until you've begun to make this pluck, but you're still fighting to turn your chin the whole time. Reach as far back as you can, pluck explosively, turn your chin. As those two things are happening, you're driving your shoulder just like the other technique into him as much as you can, trying to create that space between his arm and his body. Here, so I can slide my head out. Hands like hooks, reach as far back as I can, turn the chin and drive the shoulder. Here. From here, I'm sliding out, catching, and finishing with knees, kicks, elbows, whatever combatives seem appropriate in the moment. The defense we've shown so far has been against a bar arm headlock from behind and a carotid headlock from behind. There's one more that we're going to teach to you how to make the attack and then also how to defend it. This is what you'll call a sleeper hold, rear naked choke in some systems. The idea now is I'm going to make the same kind of carotid attack on Andrew, but instead of just catching him here, I'm going to make it a full choke where I slide my hand around, I get his throat to the crook of my elbow, but now I lock the hold up. I reach my hand around and I catch my own bicep. The free hand goes to the back of his head, and again, his throat should be in the crook of my elbow. From here, I want to make pressure inward on the sides. So like I want to take my hand, this hand, to the opposite shoulder, I squeeze inward like scissors. I've puffed my chest, and Andrew should feel pressure on the sides. What this does is cut off the blood supply to his brain. It's not really a choke. I'm not stopping air from getting to his brain or into his lungs. I'm stopping blood from going up into his brain. So I slide my hand around, deep. I want to get his throat in the crook of my elbow. As I'm doing that, I reach around, I catch my own bicep. My hand comes to the back of his head to hide as best I can, and I squeeze. Now, to make pressure, as I'm squeezing inward this way, I can also take my chest and puff it out. So I'm doing this, and he feels pressure. This is the sleeper hold, rear naked choke, blood choke. It's got a number of names, but it's designed to put him out, put him to sleep, by denying blood to his brain. So now I want to talk about a defense, or a possible defense, against this rear naked choke, this fully sealed rear naked choke. But before I do, I want to give some caveats. Because if you'll notice, we showed a defense against the bar arm. We showed a defense against the other version of carotid. We are going to talk about a defense against this particular attack, but it's very difficult to pull off. The truth is, by the time you let the attacker, the person in my position, get this deep in their choke and seal their hands, if you haven't reacted before this by either defending with a pluck or at least tucking your chin, you have big trouble. It's almost like asking, if you don't defend until this stage of the attack, it's almost like asking if Andrew's back is to me like this, and I sneak up behind him with a 2x4 and beat him over the head with it. It's like asking, what's the stick defense against that attack? The truth is, your defense was a little bit of awareness, being aware of somebody coming behind you so you could turn and defend that stick. Just like here, a little bit of awareness. If, as I'm trying to make this full-on carotid, Andrew tucks his chin now, he's made it hard for me. Now he can function. But I do want to at least give you something to try. If you are late, distracted, for whatever reason, you don't defend until this rear naked choke is fully on. I'm going to give you a couple of options. Understand that none of them may work. You are late and you are in trouble. All of these may fail. But you should try and do something, otherwise you're just out. So when the lock comes on, if you have anything you can access, depending on your type of work, maybe you're military or law enforcement, you might have an edged weapon you can access, you should be stabbing with the edged weapon, stabbing with the weapon to deal with them this way. Even if you're a civilian, if you have a pen in your pocket, your keys, try and stab, try and jab, try and hurt him enough that maybe he is discouraged in holding on. If you have no weapons available and all you have are your hands, a technique you can try, hold a little stronger, Andrew, is this. What I'm going to do is reach back and scramble and claw for that hand that's behind me and peel it off. Once it's off, I can make the exact same pluck that we made before. The trick, though, is to try and find that hand that's behind your head, scratch, claw for it, get fingers if you can, and tear it off. Look what I'm catching. Once it's off, I have a chance to make that pluck. Here's why I gave the caveat earlier. If this attacker is at all decent at making this attack, by the time you are finding his hand and trying to defend, then you're probably going out. I want to give you some tools to use, something to try if you find yourself caught here and can't do anything else. But understand that you should not think of this as a great solution. This is a thing to try if all else has failed and you did not defend in time. Reach back, scratch and claw to loosen that hand, make the pluck. But again, if this attacker understands what he's doing, you're probably going out by that point. Your defense really was to tuck your chin earlier or make the pluck at his hands before he got the hold fully in place. Guillotine choke. Maybe it begins because I took a kick to the groin and I got doubled over. Or maybe I shoot in to try and catch James with a takedown of some kind, and he defends, and I expose my neck, and I get caught in a guillotine. Relax. From here, my neck is being choked. I have to find ways to defend. We're actually going to separate our bodies a little more than we might do in a real technique, so you guys can see on video, and you can hear me talk. So a guillotine would probably be deeper than this, but we're out here so you can see some of the actions of my hands. When I'm in the hold, the outside hand comes across and plucks. Thumb is part of the hook, just like you've learned in other techniques. I pluck explosively. At the same time that I'm plucking, I'm going to tuck my chin to my shoulder. This. I am doing this action to protect my neck as much as possible. Pluck, turn your chin. This should be familiar from headlock from behind. At the same time that I'm plucking and turning my chin, my free hand is striking to the groin. As soon as I make that groin strike and I've created any space, I want to take that shoulder and wedge it in. I want this shoulder wedged in case I fail in the rest of the technique. Watch what happens. So James, after I make the technique, try and reacquire the choke. Go ahead. Once my shoulder's wedged in, it's very hard for James to reacquire the choke. That's why the shoulder has to be in. So I'm plucking and turning my chin, striking to the groin, wedging that shoulder into the hold so he can't reacquire. Now from here, I want to change our situation. You are back now. If you watch what I'm doing, as soon as I feel like I've softened him up, I use my legs. I drive a little bit forward, a lot up in the air. I'm doing this. I'm not using shoulder, although shoulder helps. It's legs, it's hips. I'm driving a little bit forward, a lot up. To break the hold. From here, spinning, punching, knees, groin kicks, basic combatives to neutralize him. Again, the whole technique. Good. The only comment. You should really measure any self-defense system by how well it works if it doesn't work completely, how much it helps you if the entire technique isn't successful. In this technique, I should turn your back. It may be that you get to here, but you're much smaller than your attacker, or they're much stronger than you, or they realize what's going on. And from here, it may be that you don't have the power, or you haven't hurt them enough to break this hold. Okay. At the very least, you've defended the choke, and immediate danger is gone, and you have plenty of opportunity to groin strike. If you can't get free from here, continue with knees. If I can't break that hold, I have opportunities for counterattacks. I prefer to get out of that hold with a spin, but if I can't, I'm counterattacking. One more time. Good. Defense against the guillotine choke. headlock from the side. By the time I realize I'm being attacked at all, I'm about here. There's no way to resist the attack. I have to go with it. As I'm falling forward, if I can, I'm taking my outside foot and stepping around. We'll discuss what to do if you can't step around in a minute. But for now, we'll assume that you have a little bit of time or ability to step around. As I'm stepping, not after, as I'm stepping, outside hand strikes to the groin, inside hand comes between my head and my attacker's. Instinctively, as you fall forward, your hands are going to want to move somewhere. We use that, and instead of my hands flying to break my fall, we do this. The attack comes here. In addition, I want to protect myself against the most immediate dangers. I'm worried about James either cranking my neck or possibly choking me or punching me in the face. So as I'm stepping around and as I'm striking, I also tuck my chin. You may find from this video that my chin is up a little bit so you can hear what I'm saying, but very much tuck your chin inside the technique. From here, this hand that's between my head and my attacker's catches the face. Thumb is tucked away under the chin. The real work's done by your index finger to the nose and fingers in the eyes. All of this is aggressive and strong. From here, I lift his chin up. This is the most important thing about the technique. Get the chin up. From here, rotate a little bit. As soon as his chin is up, I drop my elbow straight down as I stand up. And from here, hammer fist to the face or throat, punches, if appropriate, kicks to the head, stomp to neutralize him. Again, the attack comes on, falling in, tucking my chin, striking to the groin, and my hand goes between my head and my attacker's. Catching the face, index finger to the nose, fingers in the eyes, lift the chin. Drop your elbows straight down, hammer fist, punches. A couple of comments about this angle, James. When you make the defense, it's very important you get the chin up. Common mistake is for students to grab the face and push that direction, push back. I want to give you a quick demonstration. James, relax. Just stand, facing this way. Make your neck strong. Don't let me move you. Don't let me move you. From here, I catch on the forehead instead. Don't let me move your head back. I can't do it. In fact, you know what? Walk forward. Walk. I can't stop him. Come back. Walk forward. I can't stop him. Good. Walk forward. You feel the difference, yes? Yes. Leverage on the pain and leverage on the chin. So the attack comes in. I am not trying to push back on his head. I'm trying to lift the chin up. That's what you want. Then, rotate. The minute the chin is up, you take your, stay where you are. You take your elbow straight down. Think about taking your elbow to your hip. Another verbal cue, think about taking his head and putting it in your back pocket. All those will work. But the idea is chin up, then you drop straight down. From here, I am counterattacking. Hammer fist to the face or throat. If the angle's better, straight punches, kicks, any attacks that seem appropriate to you. Last comment, watch the footwork. I step in if I can, lift his chin up, take my elbow down. Now, look where my foot is. It might be in the way. If I feel like he's going to fall on me, watch my back foot. All I do is step out with it a little bit. It helps give me more leverage on him and keeps him from landing on top of me. Headlock from this side. All right, so as we've discussed, a basic version of the technique involves the defender stepping around. So when James attacks, if I can, I want to step my foot, this forward foot, around to help stabilize me. But once you have the technique down, you want to start training for more difficult situations. So it may be that James steps this foot farther across, or maybe I'm very unprepared. So by the time I defend, I can't really step. I can still make the technique. The technique still works well. It's a little more difficult. It maybe takes a grab strong, because I'm here. But I can still make the technique as long as I get his chin up and take his head down immediately. So even though I recommend for beginners that you train with this step, once you have a basic understanding of the technique, start making little modifications in the attack. Step deeper. If I'm going to attack James, maybe I step deeper and make it hard for him to step around. The technique still works. You may feel a little more resistance, but the technique works very well. I just recommend you start with a basic version before going to something more advanced. Headlock from the side, rolling in. Now this attack begins exactly the same way as a regular headlock technique. The attack comes on, and about here, I still don't know what's happening. So at the beginning of the technique, my defense has to be the same. I'm tucking my chin, my hand's flying toward his groin, my other hand's starting to come up to make its defense. But about this point, things start changing. Instead of being held in the standard headlock, I'm being pulled in and down, like James wants to take me to the floor. I have to use my initial technique, but alter it. Instead of this, I'm pulled in here. Now, it's hard for us to stop in the middle. We can't freeze our bodies in free fall. So I'm going to do one thing that you should not do in the technique. And I'm going to take my outside knee. I'm actually going to put it on the ground so I can talk about my position. The truth is, in the technique, you should see my knee about here as my body starts to go. The attack is made. I tuck in close. My hand was going to strike to his groin, now reaches deep. So my shoulder and body come as close to him as possible. I don't want to have space between us. He will then fall on top of me. I want to be close. This hand that was going to go to the face catches his body. Maybe it catches his shoulder. It catches something, and it pulls. I'm essentially low bridging him. Again, hard to do slow. We'll go as slow as we can. The attack comes on. Here, that's the initial movement. It's not the complete movement, that's the initial part. Watch how close to his body I get to low bridge him. The farther I am, come back up, James. The farther I am from James, this is a negative demonstration. The farther I am from James, the more I simply pull him on top of me and feel his weight. This is not the idea of the technique. I get close to him, so as he rolls over the top of me, and I feel little or none of his weight. Come back. Now, the last part. I want to stay close. I want to finish him. I'm not throwing him away. As he rolls, I also roll. And if I look what I'm doing. One hand reaches out. I base out. My hips go back a little bit. What I don't want to happen, James, keep the headlock on. What I don't want is to roll him and then him continue to roll me over. So as soon as I rolled over, I'm basing out. From here, if he already has let go of me, striking, striking, striking to finish him. If for some reason he's still holding on, hold strong, scratching and clawing at the face, cross face, my forearm against his jawline, my shoulders and legs do the work. So cause him to let go. You feel this, James? Yes. And then I'm finishing. One more time. Headlock from the side, rolling in. again. Good, again. Good. Good, slowly now. Bearing from the front, arms are caught. We're actually going to make an assumption now that we don't normally make in Krav Maga techniques, and then we're going to take that assumption away in a minute. But for right now, we're going to imagine that Nikki reacts a little bit early. She has a little bit of time before Andrew has the bear hug completely on, and his hips are totally close to be able to control her body. So Andrew slowly begins the attack, and Nikki first spaces and bases. Because she drops her weight down into a fighting stance. Her hands are forward, palms are against his hip pointers, the front of his hips. Her elbows, dig your elbows a little tighter, elbows are in tight. This keeps Andrew's hips away from her, which is what she wants. This prevents him from getting complete control of her body. Immediately off of this position, Nikki throws a knee. Okay, maybe she follows up with one or two more knees, freeze. And exactly right. From here, rotate counterclockwise, rotate this way. Keep rotating this way. Good. What you want is that inside arm up and against the body. So go back and make the technique again from the beginning, slowly. Space and base. Good. She stabilizes and gives a knee. Now the inside arm comes up. Push away a little more. Yeah, that's what you want here, to keep him off. From here, she finishes with more knees. Disengages when she's neutralized him and makes space. Again. Good. The reason Nikki wants Andrew's hips away is that if Andrew is allowed to get his hips in close, get a full bear hug, the closer his hips are, the more easily he can lift her and dump her. She doesn't want that. So if she, relax, if she has time early in the technique to react, she spaces and bases and holds his hips away, disallowing some of his control. Good. One more time live. Good. Now, next technique. It's still a bear hug from the front, but now we're going to assume that there's no space. So by the time, don't defend, make the attack, please. By the time Nikki reacts, Andrew's already on top. Relax for a second. We need to talk about assumptions and reality here. If this is really the case, if Nikki had no idea an attack was coming, and Andrew gets that close to her, and Andrew knew his intentions, he was going to pick her up, he's going to dump her, then the truth is Nikki's probably on the ground at that point. And that's why we have to train in ground fighting as well. And we will in Krav Maga. But we're going to assume another thing, that maybe Andrew isn't totally prepared for his takedown technique. Maybe he's going to readjust his grip. Maybe he's not sure what he's going to do. So in that fraction of a second when Andrew succeeds in getting all the way in with his hips close, Nikki freeze right here has a split second to react. That's our context. Back up, make the attack, and make the defense live. Good. Again. Good. Make the attack and freeze, please, slowly. Good. Now, here's the problem. Nikki needs to find some way to establish this base and create distance between her hips and Andrew's hips so she can finish the technique. She's going to shift her own hips and strike to the groin, hopefully causing this reaction. From here, she spaces and bases just like before, and from this moment on, the technique is exactly the same. So you do the whole thing slowly, please. Good. So this technique, bear from the front, arms caught, has two small variations. Either Nikki reacts a little bit early and stops Andrew's hips from ever getting close to her, and she's giving a knee and finishing from here. Or if she reacts later, she has no space, she creates it by shifting her hips and striking to the groin, good, and finishing. Good. Bear hug from the front, arms caught. Now we do bear hugs from behind, and we start with the same idea of bear hug from behind, arms caught. Andrew comes in and makes the attack, and they make the defense aggressively. Good. Again, one more time. Good. Even though it's now from behind, you'll see Nikki following the exact same principles. Not yet. As she's attacked, you're going to see her space and base and try and make herself hard to pick up. The lower her center of gravity, the harder she becomes to pick up. But it's going to be a little more than that. So Andrew, make the attack. Nikki, make the space and base. But watch what's happened. Not only has she shifted her feet and lowered her center of gravity, she's also shifted her body forward slightly. If she were to lower her center of gravity, but keep everything upright, make your body a little bit taller, all Andrew would have to do is drop his own body a little bit lower, take your arms lower, and he could pick her up again. But, relax, go back. Because Nikki also drops her weight slightly forward, grab, it's as though, it is like she takes her center of gravity away from him. Now, because her weight is farther from his hips, she's harder to pick up. If the attacker, relax you guys, if the attacker can lift whatever weight away from his body, if he can lift 200 pounds away from his body, he's going to pick you up no matter what. But shifting your weight forward slightly and dropping your center of gravity makes you at least harder to pick up. From here, after spacing and basing, make the attack, make the space and base. Good. Nikki needs to find ways to counterattack. She's going to feel which side is closest to her. She's going to shift her hips and make groin strikes. Good. Shaking her body, making herself hard to hold on to, giving elbows, turning, and finishing. Good. Go back. There's no guarantee that the attacker, make the attack slowly. Let's go. Don't let go on the first one. Nikki may have to strike several times, twist her body to become hard to hold on to. Nice. Excellent. Now, this groin strike is going to become the simplest and most effective technique you have, but not the only technique. Nikki can also stomp the foot. She can do an uppercut back kick to strike his groin. These are also viable options. Add a few more counterattacks, Nikki. Good. Nice. Good. The upside of stomping the foot and uppercut back kick are that they give you more tools in your toolbox. The downside of these techniques is that they shift your weight. Your feet are already doing a job. They're trying to keep balance, trying to fight back against his hold. Adding uppercut back kicks and stomps are good, but they destabilize you a little bit. So I consider them secondary options. Your first option should always be that groin strike. It is fast, simple, effective, and it does not ruin the integrity of your stance. One more time slowly. Good. Now, bear hug from behind, but now the arms are free. Live. Good. Nice. Nick, you do it again. This time, bigger turn. Turn. He's tucking his head. He's safe. Bigger turn. Give 2 strong elbows. Good. Nice. Nice. Now slowly. Good. Do it again slowly. This time, give 2 elbows, one side, then the other, alternating. Then do whatever you want. Give those first 2 elbows. Yes. Good. If you watch, just like all of the bear hugs we've worked on, Nikki begins with that same space and base action. Andrew comes in to grab slowly now. Comes in to grab. Nikki spaces and bases. From here, her arms are free, so she's going to throw 2 elbows, 2 very sharp and aggressive elbows, one on either side. This is one of the few times, relax for a second, one of the few times in Krav Maga that we're going to tell you more than one counterattack. Normally in Krav Maga, we insist on the first counterattack, and then we recommend options after that. There are logical steps after that, and we usually talk about them. But the only thing we generally require is that first logical counterattack. This is one of the few times in the system where we give you the first 2 counterattacks. And the reason is this. Andrew, I actually want you to do it facing the camera. So face the camera, Nikki. And Andrew, this time, leave your head up. Nikki, go a little slower. When Andrew comes in, Nikki drops her weight. From here, she throws 1 elbow. Now freeze. Now this first elbow, either it lands and Andrew's head gets knocked to one side so Nikki can throw the other elbow, good, and she connects with both. Or, after that first elbow, as it's happening, Andrew takes his head away from it to avoid it, and he's open for the second one. So we want you dropping your weight, always throwing those 2 elbows. After those 2, Nikki continues with counterattacks, turns, and finishes. Good. One more time slowly. Good. One last comment about this technique. We've talked several times about the idea of spacing and basing, about your weight not only dropping down, but also dropping forward. Watch what happens in slow motion. Andrew, put your head to whatever spot you expect it to go. And Nikki, don't drop your weight forward, right? So make a little bit of an error in the technique. Andrew, make the attack slowly. Okay, look where Andrew's head is. Look where it is relative to Nikki's back. If Nikki doesn't drop her weight, when she tries to throw elbows, she ends up connecting with the tricep or not connecting at all. Because maybe Andrew is trying to tuck his head against her back. Now, same thing, relax. Same attack, Andrew. Nikki, do the same thing, but now drop your weight slightly forward. If you watch what happens, by dropping her body forward, Nikki's exposed Andrew's head a little bit more, gives her a better chance of landing one or both of these elbows. That's the idea. Not only is this dropping of the weight better for you in terms of maintaining stability, it also helps expose the attacker's head for your elbows. Last time, full speed. Good. Bear hug from behind, arms free. Bear hug from the front, arms free, assuming that I have a little space to operate. The attack comes in, and if you look, my reaction is exactly the same as bear hug from the front, arms caught. If Andrew were to make the same attack with my arms caught, this is the defense. He makes the attack with my arms free, and I have a little bit of time to react. I'm attempting the exact same technique. Spacing and basing. My hands are on the outside of his now, but I'm trying to stop his hips from coming close. And once I've stabilized this position, knee to the groin, another knee, come up and catch and hold, continue with counterattacks. It's a very simple technique, exactly the same as bear hug from the front, arms caught. There's one big assumption here, that I'm able to get my arms around his arms to his hips. Andrew and I are roughly the same size. I'm able to do so. Put a smaller defender in my place, give somebody, Andrew's pretty strong, but somebody with much bigger arms than Andrew, and it may be hard for that person to get their hands around. So we like this technique as a starting point, as a basic reaction against a bear hug from the front, arms free. Change angle. But now we're going to make an assumption. Maybe I can't stop his hips from coming close. Maybe I'm later in the attack. So by the time I realize I should defend, or I'm able to do anything, Andrew's already in close, his hips are in close this way, and I can't make that same reaction. I can't stop his hips, they're already here. That's now my assumption. We're going to do it with your back to the camera. Make the attack. Good. Good. Let's go back to this angle. Now again, we made this statement in a previous technique. We have to admit something, that if he knows what he's doing, and he has intentions to pick me up or take me down, and if I'm this late in my reaction that I don't do anything until here, I'm probably on the ground. But again, there are times and moments when maybe he hesitates, maybe he readjusts his grip or his stance before dumping me, and I have a second to react. I want to do something. I reach around. I may even try to hold strong. I may even try to space and base a little bit. Reach around, catch his face. I'm going to show you some variations, but we start with this. Catching the face. Use the bridge of his nose as a handle. Fingers go in the eyes, and I peel his chin away. His head should roll along my chest like I'm opening a jar. Here. Change the angle. Right here. Catch. Roll his chin away. I'm not sliding his head along my chest. I'm rolling his chin away. You feel the leverage, Andrew? Yeah. Good. From here, I continue to roll. Change the angle again. Watch my foot. This foot over here. As I roll him, I step out. Drop to one knee if you want to. To finish him. This angle again. So you saw what's happening with the hands on one side. Now watch the finishing position on the other side. From here, catch, roll his chin away, stepping out. From here. I want to talk about some variations of this attack. This is bear hug from the front, arms free. Now, if we were going to compare our reaction, let's say, to the training of a mixed martial arts fighter, when Andrew comes in and makes the bear hug, from here, if I'm addressing this like a mixed martial arts fight, one of the techniques you might apply in that kind of situation for sport would be to swim in. Take my hand and slide in and go from his hands down here, which in mixed martial arts fighting you would call underhooks. Sliding in this way, I slide my other hand in, and I maybe go to get underhooks on him. In the sport arena, it's a very viable and it's a good technique to apply. But think about it, in sport fighting, there are rules. If there are rules, maybe I have to do this. Maybe it's my best option. On the street, for me, there are no rules. My hands are free. Instead of swimming in this way to get underhooks, I come around and I grab his face. Not allowed in a sport fight. Allowed on the street. Here, roll his chin away. So there's some advantage to having my hands up. Now I want to talk about variations. This idea of reaching around, one more time, Andrew, of reaching around and catching the bridge of the nose is excellent, but it's not the only option. It's a principle you want to follow more than a technique. So the principle is leverage on the neck. The technique I'm showing is reaching around, catching the bridge of his nose. But the principle is more important. Principle is leverage on the neck. So let's say Andrew buries his head a lot more. I can't reach around and find. Take this hand, use the webbing between the thumb and index finger, drive in and up, lift his chin up. Again, the principle is leverage on the neck. Headbutt, elbow, catch and finish. The principle is more important than the technique. He buries his head. I can't find him this way. I find him this way. Turn your head to the inside. Good. Let's say I can't find him either way. Thumbs in his eyes, lifting his chin. Again, the idea is leverage on the neck. If Andrew were to take his head, single, head on this side, but turn your face inward, all the way inward. If his head's over here, look, I reach the other way, and I catch him. Or I catch him here. Back to this angle. If I need to, let's say I can't quite get enough leverage, I get here but I need help, I use the other hand, and I push away. The point is, following a specific technique is not vital. Staying safe is vital. Following principles will help you. So even though you may start your training with this clean, simple version of the technique, good. Once you have some basic understanding, start modifying how you catch. Thumbs in his eyes. Webbing between your index finger and thumb, under his nose here, lifting his chin, finishing. It's all the same principle. In the end, all the same reaction, just a little bit different specifics. Bear hug from the front, arms free. Here, here, here.
We will show now another option of getting out from the grab. Turn your head sideways. At the same time, bring your hand to the hollow between the collarbones of your opponent. Push the thumb against his neck. Remove your head from the grab and distance yourself from the attacker and counterattack again with another kick. Move from the danger zone as early as possible. For learning purposes, we will show now the stages of the technique. First, pluck the opponent's hand while inserting your shoulder to create pressure on his hands, thus remove his forearm from your neck. Simultaneously, you attack to the groin. You continue then with counterattacks to the head with elbow and to the groin with the palm. When you feel no much of resistance, you can get out while grabbing his hand by two hands, stepping diagonally forward, arching under his armpit, then turning towards him and finishing with more counterattacks and fleeing the scene when you feel comfortable doing this. We are presenting you now with a new set of problems and solutions. This time, the problem is a bear hug. With a bear hug, the opponent can inflict some kind of damage to you. He can also move you around. He can limit your movements, trap your hands, limit your body movement, so another person can come and hit you. I will show first a bear hug when Caroline will be with the hands free. My hands will be tight behind her back. As early as possible, Caroline will bring her hands to the attacker's face and push her thumbs to his eyes. Then she continues with counterattacks with a hammer punch. Caroline finishes with an elbow strike to the head and a knee kick to the face. And now for our learning stages. The first stage is creating distance, leaning backwards and bringing the palms to the side of the face of the opponent. This is done, and then the next stage will be to push strongly with the thumbs against his eyes. After fulfilling this stage, the defender should counterattack starting with hammer punches, and then finishing as needed, for example, elbow strikes and knee kicks. This time, as the attacker, I will grab Caroline with a bear hug, functioning the same as before for me, but for her, her arms will be pinned to her body. She will not be able to move them as before towards my eyes. As Caroline finds herself in a bear hug, her hands are pinned to her body. She pushes her buttocks backwards, sliding her palms parallel to her body, and then pushes like an arrow forward, and then curling the fingers, hitting the opponent's groin. From here, she moves to his shoulder blades, grabbing him and giving him knee kicks to the groin. She then finishes with taking her elbow out from the grab and using it to strike. In order to slide between the bodies, Caroline has to push her buttocks backwards and parallel go with the palms between the bodies, and then strike like an arrow, curling with the fingers at the end of the motions. As the first learning stage, Caroline will push her hips backwards while sliding her palms parallel to the body, coming forward in an arrow shape, and then hitting the opponent's groin from under with curled fingers. After finishing the first stage, she will grab the opponent's shoulder blades, hit him with a knee, as she now has a good distance for a knee strike. The last stage will be taking the hand out from the remaining of the grab, striking with an elbow to the back of the head. Next, we'll be confronting a new set of problems. These are the hair pulls. The opponent grabs your hair and then he's pulling you. He's pulling you towards him, or maybe he's pulling you directly down in order to give you a knee kick or maybe a punch. He's inserting, Caroline please, he's inserting his fingers through your hair and then he's pulling you. As you're being pulled forward and down, you must initiate a strong step, bursting forward. As you do this, you block the opponent's attack, whether is it a knee kick or a hand strike. Simultaneously, you strike to the groin. After that, as a second step, you strike to the opponent's head, face with the heel of the hand, and finish with a kick. Again, the attacker grabs your hair and pulls you. But this time, his smarter is approaching you from behind. He's inserting his fingers through your hair, pulls you back. What you have to do is to deal with him and the other problems that he's presenting. Thus, you have to turn as early as possible. The attacker approaches you from behind, grabs and pulls your hair. He's pulling your head down a little bit. You have to turn early, get in, block his attack, whatever it is, and simultaneously counterattack to the groin. After that, continue with other counterattacks, such as a heel hand to the face and another kick to the groin. Move from the danger zone as early as possible. And for our learning stages, start by leaning backwards and then turning, blocking as early as possible with the forearm and counterattacking. Feel as if you are being pulled and turn and send the hand to block whatever attack is being sent towards you. After you finish your first stage of moving in and counterattacking, continue with other appropriate counterattacks.
In our system of self-defense, we want to be complete in that we want to be able to deal with threats from any possible angle. For instance, in choke, we have defenses that deal with the choke, whether the choke occurs from the rear, from in front, or from the side, or any angle in between. We also deal with situations where the attacker may be pulling the defender, where the attacker may be delivering the choke into place, or the attacker may be driving through the defender with some type of push or shove. We also know from experience that chokes can occur on the ground. For instance, if someone is attacked while they're lying on a bed, they're in a prone position. And many standing fights end up on the ground. I'm going to attack Marnie and take her to the ground, and she's going to be making a defense against a choke that's delivered from a side position to her body. Here, Willie, as the attacker, has Marnie on her back and has his hands firmly around her throat. Marnie's first defensive position or movement will be to pluck with her outside hand against Willie's right hand, freeing that part of her throat. She will at the exact same time deliver a strike to the throat area, which is sensitive, causing Willie to back up. At that point, her inside leg, in a folded position, comes up and the knee is placed in the center of Willie's chest, pushing him back, which creates enough room for Marnie's outside leg to deliver counterattacks, kicks, pushing him away. Marnie can get up and apply further kicks and then leave the scene when it's safe. For learning purposes, we'll break down the exercise into its logical stages. The attack is made. Willie's weight is on the throat of the defender. The defender, Marnie, will simultaneously pluck with her outside hand, freeing part of the throat, and with her inside hand, deliver a strike to the throat of Willie just above the collarbone. This area is a sensitive area. There's almost like a hole there that receives the strike Marnie is giving. The natural reaction is for Willie to retreat. This calls for stage 2. In stage 2, the knee comes shooting up and creates a distance for Marnie, pushing Willie back and not allowing Willie to collapse on her. This pushing back immediately allows the leg to come up for stage 3, which is a solid kick to the face. As many times as is necessary, with the last kick, pushing him away, Marnie rises quickly and is able to kick further if necessary or retreat.
Let's now look at some basic ground fighting techniques. Now, whether you are taken to the ground in an attack or you happen to fall or trip, the reality is that the dynamics change when you're on the ground. Your options become limited. Firstly, if I go to the ground, it's a lot harder to strike. Although we can strike from the ground, I lose my power. Secondly, if your opponent from this position is stronger than you, they have the advantage. If your opponent is experienced in ground fighting, such as mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu, they also have the advantage. And more importantly, hop up for 1 second. If there are multiple attackers standing and I have to defend myself, it's a lot harder to defend, counter, and get to my feet and get to a safe position.
Let's do it again, slow. When we start from the long range, the attacker is coming from the long range. I see and I'm ready to deal with him. The first simple thing to do, kick the head and then continue. Again, slow. When he's coming, kick to the head, falling down, continue however I want, and moving away. When we have less time or when we react a little bit later, we need something else. Let's see this one. Again, slow. When the attacker comes in, I send my forearm body away. The other hand attacks the eyes, knee, finish off the way I want, and as usual, move away. When we are being pushed or tripped back, the head, protecting the head by putting the chin to the chest, this way to protect the back of the head. Hands are hitting the floor with the fleshy part all the way from the elbow towards the finger, the big muscle, at about 45 degrees downwards. Head is tucked in, getting hit on the floor, on the middle section, top section of the back. When falling down, the hip is being lifted a little bit, pressing with one of the leg up, so the tailbone will not get hit. The leg is coming in, knee out, leg in, so I am ready to kick. Hands are in. The way we do it at the beginning, lying down on the floor, hands here, hitting the floor with the hands. Making sure the elbow doesn't hit. Same time, chin to chest. In the same time, lifting the leg, pressing so the tailbone is up. And now we can start to go up a little bit. So from crouching, just rolling back, doing the fall break. And slowly getting up higher and higher. The last part should be without touching the butt, the lower part of the back. While going down, sending the hip forward. Meaning, Hands hitting the floor, taking the momentum and the power of the fall. Legs on the ball of the foot, so nothing from the body is touching. The head turns to the side and up to save the face. Starting from the knees and doing a little bit of push-ups, looking to the left, looking to the right. Looking side and up. And now, falling to the floor from the knee position. When falling to the floor, staying on the knees for easy. Later on, going on the ball of the foot. Pay attention that the hands are shooting to more or less where the shoulders will be. Meaning, so I stop my weight. If the hands will be a little bit too back, the head will go forward and hit. Getting up, and from here, break falling. The purpose of a roll forward is to prevent hitting the floor very strong. Meaning, when falling with momentum forward, to roll is the best option in order to prevent the body from injury. The whole idea is that the hand will get some of the momentum away. The head hides, rolling from the shoulder to the other side of the body, and then get up from the floor, get ready for the next thing. How do we do that? Starting from the floor. How to get up? Getting up, legs should be in more or less the figure 4. One leg on the top, one leg bent under, ball of the foot of the back leg, and going to the kneeling position. For me, this is the motion. With a little bit more momentum, going back, rolling on my back, coming back, twisting the legs, positioning them in the figure 4, one under, one over. Again. And from here, get up. Finish the get up. Going down when we are falling, the hands will reach and stop ourselves. Of course, the first reaction will be a step forward as we are falling, trying to stabilize ourselves. Then the hands are going the forward leg, forward hand pointing to the outside, so the fingers to the inside, the other hand in 90 degrees, on the floor close to the leg. The head will go to the back hand, looking backwards in order to protect the head. From here, the momentum will take me forward, and I will roll. And I get up. The first one, getting up forward. After I fell to the ground, I did my break fall. I am in this position. The attacker is still in front of me. Kicking, transition to side, and get up towards him. When I am on the side, after here, kicking, turning to the side, forearm and the leg on the side, pushing myself towards the knee on the ball of the foot, knee and hand for stabilization, kick, and continue towards the target. This is option number one, attacking forward. Option number two will be running away, meaning turning the back on the problem and get away from the area. Again with a break fall backwards. What happens when I break fall? Turning to the runner's position and running away. When I am on the floor, in this position, bringing the hands, turning to the side, bringing the hands, fingers facing the direction I want to go, the top leg goes over, putting the foot over the knee. Foot over the knee. And from here, just running. This is running away. The last one, in the place, standing in the place, checking the area. Again with a break fall backwards. What happens after I break fall? Here, checking the area, getting up in the place, putting the leg in the air. On the floor, lifting the hip, moving the leg under, and get up. From here, the break fall, putting the leg on the floor, going to the same side position, push up, lift the hip, the hand is always protecting, bring the leg under the body, more or less to the line of the hand, and getting up. when I break fall, after I check that everything is okay, I just run forward in case there is somebody behind me. Slow. The whole idea is to get into the runner's position, meaning when I am in the position of the break fall, look behind you, everything is okay, bring one leg forward, runner's position, and just run forward.
When we're standing, we fight from a ready position. We're a fighting stance. We can also train from a semi-passive position or a passive position, a more relaxed state. Okay? When we go to the ground, we must learn to defend and attack from some sort of a position that best protects us, where we can move, defend, and attack. Now, for the purpose of this drill, we're going to use safety mats. Joey is on the ground. And if we look at what Joey's doing, his hands are up protecting his face, slightly away from his face, so he can make his defenses. His chin is to his chest, his head is off the ground to protect his head. His knees to his chest, so he can kick. He has the opposite leg, base leg, on the ground, so he can use this to move, to pivot. He can also use his hands if he has to move. We're going to look at a simple drill that will allow Joey to get used to moving on the ground if someone is trying to attack him. I'm simply going to try and touch Joey's shoulders or his head, and he's going to move. Each time he moves, he's going to adjust his legs, so there's always a kicking leg in between us. We work like this. I'm just trying to touch his shoulders. From here, he shifts his leg. Now, of course, we can look at this drill in advanced stages later on. We know that people aren't trying to touch your shoulder on the street. They're trying to kick you. They're trying to jump on you and punch you. Trying to put you in some sort of an arm lock. Or perhaps use weapons. For now, this is a basic building drill. I try and touch his shoulders. As I move, he switches. From here. Kicking on the ground. I am restricted. If I'm standing, I can generate more power by moving, but I can't because I'm on my back. I can kick from this position. If I'm on my back, I have to bring my head off the ground. Again, my hands are in front, slightly forward to protect myself from possible attacks. To generate power in my kick, I have to bring my hips off the ground. Striking with the heel, flat part of the foot. Butt off the ground. I can use left foot, right foot from this position. Pushing through the pad. Like a lot of our kicks, this is a stomping kick. I can roll onto my side, come onto my elbow, and kick. Still using a front kick or more of a side kick from this position. Maybe coming up a little bit when I kick. Flat part of the foot, using the heel. Again, I have to engage my hips by bringing them off the ground from this position. Again, slowly, as I kick, my hips come off the ground. My hands stay in front of my face to protect myself from here. Joey starts to move from this position. I must move with him. I adjust to his attack. From here, he comes forward. Maybe I use a series of kicks from here. So if my opponent is slightly away from me, I can use my kicks. He's at kicking range. Just like when we're standing, we talk about fighting, we talk about the ranges. Using our long weapons, our kicks, into our intermediate, which are punches. And then into close quarter, elbows, headbutts, knees. The same thing applies on the ground. Again, I lose a little bit of power in my attacks. So after I make my kicks, maybe Joey breaks through my defenses and he comes now on top. From here, what do we have? Hammer fists. Palm strikes. If I can, depending on where he is, I can punch. I can hook punch if he's a little bit closer. I can elbow. Again, with these strikes, I do not punch with my head flat on the ground. I want to be engaged. I want to see. I attack. How do I generate my power? My shoulders. I must bring my shoulders off the ground. From this position. Again, I can hammer fist. Upper body. Left or right, or multiple attacks. Palm strikes. Straight punches. Hook punches if he's closer. Even if he's closer, I can still use hammers and elbows. And maybe headbutts. Biting, scratching, eye gouging. These are all very effective strikes.
again. When he takes me down, I full break, and now I need to turn and deal with him. Meaning I am in this position, he is still there. I go down to my forearm so I can start rolling towards my back. The same leg goes in, so I am turning all the way. From here, attack, continue attacking, and from here, continue or just run away. When he's pushing me, I make a full break and then an outside defense, like we saw before. After I've been pushed, the full break, he's coming in, outside defense. Because of his momentum, I roll, kick, continue, and then make a decision. Continue forward, destroy or move away. This is when he's rushing in. When he positions himself over me, a little bit different. Again, slow. More or less the same thing. The attacker is now over me, standing. Still using the inside or outside defense and continue with counterattack. Let's see this breakdown. Make the inside defense, counterattack to the groin, move, kick, and then again make the decision of continue counterattacks or move away. The last situation is while being thrown to the floor, he goes with me and he's in a mount position. When we are in the situation that is sitting on me again, the defense, the counterattack can go low or high, catch the hand, throw to the direction of the caught hand, continue with counterattacks to the groin, and from here, finish. One way of finish can go towards the head, finish here, or again please, on floor, or from here, hit, spread, kick, and move away. Again. What happens when the attacker is kicking? I use the same defense. Fleshy part out, hand is clenched away from my head. It is the same defense like we're doing standing up. Please slow. This is dangerous. He can break my hand. So what I want to do in the same time, again please, I want to move my body as much as I can. So the hand is for safety here. Please again. Now the legs. While I rotate towards him, the legs will kick my opponent. Again. Using a stomping kick, if I can, a double kick, it's the best. After the initial kick, decide what you need to do. Either go attack him some more or just run away, getting up like we learned.
Inside-outside defenses. When we're standing, we've been over this. We've reviewed that I can make a defense inside. I can also make defenses against outside attacks. In Krav Maga, we give you basic defenses that build more advanced techniques. So when we go to the ground, do the same principles apply? Yes, they do. From this position here, Joey is in the full mount from here. He makes an attack with his right hand. I make my defense. I redirect his punch with the palm of my hand. Remember, just like when we're standing, there are two parts to my defense. I have 100% defense with my hand. I have 200% defense with my body defense, moving my head out of the way. Again, I'm defending with the palm of the hand. From this position here, I can counter the eyes. I can counter the groin from this position. Again, here. Other hand from this position. Redirecting. Moving my head off the line, away from the danger, which is the punch. Outside attacks. Will the same defense work? Yes. Look at the position of my head. I am not in this position. I want to be able to see what's happening. I want to stop my head from hitting the ground. So my chin comes to my chest, my hands are away from my face, he makes the outside attack, I make my 360. Deep in my defense, blade of the arm, boom, chopping motion. From this position, again, here. I can counter again to the eyes, attack the groin. Other side, here. We can also trap the hands. I can hook or grab the hands. Remember, there are no rules in Krav Maga. If I have to eye gouge, I do. If I have to grab the groin, I do. If I have to bite and scratch, I do this. Whatever it takes to survive. From this position here, I grab, I edge from here. I attack, I attack, I attack. Attack the groin, I push, I go. Or I can swing the leg from this position. Attack and go.
Now we're going to look at defending a stomp when the defender is lying on the floor. Before this, let's look at something we already done that looks pretty similar to what we're going to do on the ground. Defending against punches, inside and outside defenses. Please. These techniques, inside and outside defenses against punches, we are doing the same thing on the floor. Let's look at it. In this technique, please, we are doing outside defense like we did against the punch. Again, please. Turning the legs, kicking, and then moving away or running after him, destroy. This is the first option. The second option, when I'm doing an inside defense. The inside defense again. So, the inside defense, counter attack, shrimp out, kick, continue. When we are doing the inside defense, we find ourselves with the attacker over me. From here, immediately hitting the groin once, twice, pushing, shrimping out, bringing my legs up, kicking, and continue. Continue destroying or continue while running away.
An attacker sitting on top of us, striking or choking us, is a very dangerous position to be in. We need to disturb his balance and defend any attacks. We can do this by thrusting with our hips. This is done by pulling our feet close to our butt and then bucking or bridging our hips towards our head or obliquely over one shoulder. What's Steph doing? As you can see, she's thrusting powerfully with her hips and touching the floor above her shoulder. And this is one of many bridging exercises that you can do to help improve your ground defense techniques.
Now we're going to see the same thing, the same timeline with chokes. We start with choke from the front. You already done the basic choke from the front. When the problem comes, let's look at a variation, a one-hand variation. What happens? When the choke is on, one hand releases. The second hand goes in, fingers to the eyes, and from here, continue and move away. This is the one hand variation. Now what happens when my reaction or the attacker takes me down with the same choke? While he's taking me down while I'm falling, I'll do the technique. Kick and move away. The next variation, of course, is when I react so late that I am already on the ground and he is on my side. This. It is exactly the same, but we are more stationary on the ground. Let's do it slow. The one hand release. Hit, kick, kick, and finishing the same way. Moving away or kicking the head. Now let's see another option, variation, when we are on the ground and the attacker is choking me from the mount position. The release, the same like standing, plucking, hitting with one hand while grabbing one of his hands with my other hand, hitting to the face or to the ribs, and from here continuing throwing towards the direction of the hand that is caught. Let's see. And from here continuing either going back or going forward, as we already know. when the attacker takes me down, I do a basic fall break, please. Land on the floor. When he's choking, I do a release from behind, taking the palms away, the thumbs away, one hand to the outside, the other goes in, legs, one leg comes up, and I push away, rolling away, getting around, up, counterattacks, finish. The hands go behind, one goes out, one goes in, the same leg as the hand out comes up. This way I can push myself away. Lift. Now I can press away and roll. Rolling over, taking the attacker away, counter-attacking and getting up. This is when there is a choke. The second situation can be when the attacker, instead of choking, slams the head to the floor. Let's see this. Let's do it slow. When the attacker is taking me down, the full break is the same. Please. He lands on me, slams the head. I bring my hands up to protect the head. From here, bring the leg up, press with the forearm towards the ear, twist, attack, get up, and finish. We already did the headlock from the side standing. We will do a repetition on this just to remember. And then we see what happens when the attacker manages to take me to the floor, and what happens, how do we solve the situation when we're already on the floor. Duncan, please. Now, when he's taking me to the floor, meaning I didn't have time to react standing. I didn't do any prevention. Get into the problem. I solve the problem very late, meaning I am already on the floor. Please don't. Let's do it slow. When the attacker takes me to the floor, I am late, falling, getting to this situation, one hand goes around, take the eye, move the body, bring one leg over, make sure your Achilles tendon area is on the neck, bring your knee to the other knee, roll on your stomach, press up on his back. If you want to knee to the back of the head. Okay, if not, just get up, hit him, and move. Now we're going to look at the same problem, a headlock from the side on the floor, while my hands are pinned under me. Let's do this slow. When the attacker takes me, I am pinned down with my hands under. I need to move out, bridge, catch the eyes, pull to my stomach, while pulling, turning the head, turning him, press up, attack, attack, and finish. Now let's see about what happens when we have the headlock from behind in a sitting position. Just before that, let's repeat the headlock standing from behind. Now let's do the same thing, sitting position. The attacker is behind me, and do it slow. What happens when the attacker puts his hand, hide the head the same as standing, fingers hitting back, hooking his hand, in the same time, bridge up while turning, turn around, take the head out, hit, get up, finish. Let's see this a little bit faster.